Hi friends, thanks for joining me today. We are here for part 2 of the travel blanket and pillow project. Let's get going. So as you can see, we are back in the costume shop. I wanted to use the big draft table to measure this out. I got here an hour early than my regular start time, so I actually have a little bit of time to get some work done. I don't think I can get this measured and sewn in an hour, but it would be fun to try while I've got the time to do it. So let's just dive right in. I have my almost yard of fabric for the pillow, for one side of the pillow laid out already, and let's have a look at it. Just checking the measurements on my drafting table. This surface isn't really made for fabric drafting, so the measurements aren't really super logical from a clothing and fabric standpoint. I like to use this straight edge ruler when I'm using the rotary cutter, and then I know I've got a nice straight cut. My rotary cutter is a little dull, and sometimes it skips threads, which is very annoying, especially when I have a big project and a bit of a time constraint. So that first little square will be one side of the pillow, and then I'm using this other part of that width of fabric to measure out the pocket. So I'm going to measure the length of the pocket against the final width of the pillow, and then how much I need to fold over for the hem at the top of the pocket. Now I am just going to finger press that top hem over. And then take it to the iron. Next, I am just going to sew that hem down. And then I'm using the same width for the back side of the pillow. I've already done that measurement, so I don't need to measure it again. Just cut a piece the same size. This is the side of the pillow that is going to hold the blanket. So I need 2 flaps on this side. I'm going to use this entire piece. This is me thinking about how it's going to work out and where I need to cut. And I'm sorry I don't remember the exact measurements that I used, but I cut it roughly in the middle so that there's some room to fold over the hem and the flaps will still overlap on the back to contain the blanket. And that was me getting frustrated because my rotary cutter is just not doing a good job today. Once again, I will finger press the hem of the flaps before taking it over to the iron. And then sew those hems down as well. So now I'm going to line everything up like a sandwich. We'll start with the outside of the pillow and the pocket, remembering that I need to do right sides together. And then I just had to measure to kind of make sure the blanket fits within my dimensions. I wanted the top flap to be on the outside and the bottom flap to be on the inside, so that is how I put them on in my little fabric sandwich. I had a moment of thinking about it to make sure everything is stacking up correctly. And then the final piece of the pillow goes on the very top. And I'm pretty confident that that's correct, so I start pinning all around the edge. I'm going to sew around those edges. I have some nylon webbing from when I made yoga straps a few summers ago, so that is what I'm using for the carry handles that I almost completely forgot about, except that I brought the webbing with me. Now, this pattern does have an up and down, so make sure that your orientation is correct if you try this. I wanted the handle, of course, at the top, so I had to make sure that the pattern was oriented correctly. So then I'm giving this a little fold and then lining it up with the middle of the pillow. I'm just using a little bit of finger pressing to find the center of both the strap and the fabric. And sandwich that between the correct layers, which would include the side of the pillow and the flap that holds the blanket. And then I wanted to make sure that I left plenty of room for sewing around the pillow. Then I pin that down really well in many areas. And then we take it to the sewing machine. I wanted this pillow to be very strong, so I sewed twice around all edges. So there's a double line of stitching on every edge. Next, I'm going to cut all the corners and turn the whole thing right side out. I used a tool to really poke out those corners, and then the whole thing gets pressed nice and flat. I made sure to press down the seam allowance that I left open for turning as well. That part will be hand sewn later. Once again, checking the folded blanket to the dimensions of the pillow. It looks like it's going to work. Okay, I have one pillow cut and sewn. So here, obviously it's not stuffed yet, and there's the opening for that, and then I will do that. I don't have any of my stuffing here, so I will do that when I get home. So we have a pocket, and then we have the two flaps in the back, and that is what will hold the blanket. And then the other one is cut and ready to sew. So I'm rather excited. This seems to be working. The folded blanket fits in the dimensions of the flat unstuffed pillow. So I think there will be room once I get it stuffed to still fit the blanket in. I think it's gonna work, which is exciting because really I'm just kind of guessing for this entire project. I've also got a handle, which I remembered at the last minute that I wanted to add. So great. I haven't decided yet. I'm contemplating this pocket here if I wanted to add like a button or Velcro or something to keep it closed. I don't think I will, but I'm thinking about it nonetheless. I wish I had decided to put a zipper here, because then the stuffing could be removed and the whole thing could be washed, because it is made to travel with, and traveling can be messy if something spills on it. I've run stuffed things through the washing machine before, so if I have to wash the entire pillow, it'll be fine. There's also I don't want to take the time to do that. So our first trip is next week, which means these really need to get done like now. In any event, I've got to go to my desk. I did everything here that I wanted to do with this hour. It wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. So good on that. And then we'll take the whole project home. I am off tomorrow, so hopefully I will get this finished up, and then we'll take a look at everything together. All right, so next stop, my desk, but the next time you'll see me, home and stuffing pillows. All right, I am back home where I have changed out of my work clothes. I have sewed the second pillow together. So here's pillow 1, here's pillow 2. I am regretting that I didn't plan to put a zipper in here, but at the same time, if we like this and it ends up working for us, I can always add a zipper later on, so it's fine. So I am in the craft room, of course, where the sewing machine is and where my 10-pound box of polyester fiber fill is. And if you have ever wondered how much fiber fill it takes to create 10 pounds, it is a lot. It is a very large box, and of course it's 10 pounds heavy, plus of course the box. I have crocheted a lot of amigurumi and I make a lot of dolls, so I needed this big box of polyester fiber fill, and honestly it's taking me forever to go through it, which really is a good thing. It was probably $50 or $60 and I have polyester fiber fill for the rest of my life. So let's start stuffing these pillows and see how firm we want them. And then all I have to do is stitch up the top and everything's done, and hopefully it works out. Let's get stuffing. I was just kind of eyeballing how much stuffing to put in here, because I know with the dimensions of the pillow, it's going to need room for the stuffing and also room for the blanket. So I don't want to stuff these too firmly, because then the blanket won't fit. feel pretty good about that softness. So then on to the next one. I ended up stuffing mine a bit more firmly than the one for my daughter. It could have been a bit less, but it's not too bad. There are 3 layers of fabric here at this top seam. There's the front and back of the pillow and the flap for the blanket. And I'll talk about this a little bit later, but despite my best efforts, I did not catch all 3 layers when I was felling this together, so I had to go over both of those twice. And this is where I discovered that I did not catch all 3 layers when I sewed up that seam, so I just decided to sew that additional opening as well. And this is the moment of truth. I am stuffing the blanket into the flap. Let's start with the bottom flap. And then flip the top flap over. And if everything holds, we did it right. And it worked. And the travel pillow blanket project is all done. So there are a few things that I learned. The top part that I left open for turning and stuffing it had, this side with the flap had 2 layers in it, and when I sewed together, it didn't sew the under layer. That happened on both pillows, despite trying to change how I sewed it together, so I had to go over that area twice, on the outside and then on the inside of the flap. Right there. It's not the cleanest amount of stitching, but it's done, and that's what I wanted. So this is the side that holds the blanket. It holds the blanket pretty well. The pillow is pretty squishy, so I can squish it in there and flip the flaps of the pillow over, and ta-da! So this one is mine, and this kind of opens a little bit when I have it in there, and I think maybe I can shove the blanket down a bit, or, you know, it's not a big deal. It's fine. And then this other side has a nice big pocket that could carry a few small things, like a travel journal or what else would I carry? Maybe my tablet. I don't use tablets in the car. I get too motion sick, but my daughter might, so she might put her travel journal in there, or her tablet, or something like that. I'm super happy with this project. I wasn't sure it was going to turn out, particularly the stuffing the pillow and being able to shove a blanket up in there, but it seems to have worked. And of course, the next thing is we will take these on a road trip and see if they're as useful as I think they're going to be. So I'm pretty excited. So that's all done. Thanks for joining me as I came up with this idea completely out of my head as I went. I think it's going to work. I'm pretty happy with it. And we'll see you next time. Bye.